look, I've not done a video for a long time. I thought it was time I got back onto that particular wagon, and there's a load of videos that I'm really keen to make, particularly about the games that I'm developing, but I'm not quite in the place for that yet. So I thought I'd ease myself back into making some videos by doing some simple hobby stuff. And the first thing I want to do is try out for the camera a new product I've got, and this product is Biostrip 20, and I've been recommended this as a really good all-purpose paint stripper for miniatures of all types and designs. So I've collected a range of miniatures, and I'm going to try different ways of applying this product and see how well they work, and how different ways of using it have different effects and are differently good or bad, and which ones use the most product and the least. But before I go into that, let's have a quick look at the product itself. So Biostrip 20, main advantage with Biostrip is that it's broadly eco-friendly. What it means is it can go down the sink, it can be disposed of in any normal bin, it doesn't have to have any special chemical concerns or safety around it, and that stands in contrast to other products, for example like Nitromores or Blackfriars. These are the hard chemical paint strippers, only use these on metal miniatures, never ever on plastic or resin. Okay, these are really good, but the chemicals are quite harsh. You're not allowed to put them down the sink. You're supposed to wipe the chemicals off, wipe brushes off and stuff on newspaper, and then dispose of that newspaper in proper disposal centres. Obviously most people don't do that because they use it in small quantities and they're not professionals that are going to be held to account, but all the same you do not want this stuff going into your water supply. So hence why I got very interested in Biostrip 20. It's environmentally friendly, but also because it should allegedly be good to use on a range of different miniatures of different materials. So we're going to have a look and see the miniatures and how I'm going to apply them. Before we get to that, let's have a quick look at the material itself. So what does it look like? I will move the camera so you guys can see this. So here it is with the lid off. You can see it appears white in the pot. Scoop it up, it looks very much like PVA glue in terms of its consistency and its colour. This is all good. It means it should stick to miniatures. They don't need to be dunked in the stuff. It should be easy to see where it's been applied and where it hasn't. So seeing as I've got the camera here, let's have a look at some of the miniatures I'm going to be working with. We'll come down here. So I've got some of these guys here. Not these guys, these are my ball monsters. These guys are to be protected from paint stripper because they are ready for the display cabinet. But we got some Infinity miniatures down here. So some of these are conversions, some of these are straight out of the box. None of them are painted badly, I hasten to add. They're all from my collection. Some of them are part painted, some of them are finished, like this Hacker's Lamb Hacker, for example. But I've just decided I want to unify my paint scheme. I want to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to strip all the paint off, clear all the bases, and start again. So we've got a range of Hacker's Lamb Infinity miniatures. We've got this Adeptus Mechanicus miniature from Forge World. The reason I've got him in is because he's the only resin miniature I had handy, and I'm not that fussed with his paint scheme, so I'm going to strip it off and start again. This is an old Defiance Games plastic miniature. Defiance Games are long out of business. Alright miniatures, basically. If it ruins it, I don't care. We've got some couple more in. Well, that's an Infinity miniature, that's an Aristea. This is a metal, limited edition metal version of an Aristea miniature. And then last of all, we got this guy. Reason I've got him is, even though I've rebased him, he's a pre-paint miniature. He's from the old AT43 range. So I thought it would be good to see how a pre-paint does under these, so you can test things like X-Wing miniatures and stuff for stripping paint off and starting again. Okay, I think you can see me up there. I've put the Biostrip 20 on most of the miniatures that I showed you earlier. So I've left them now for about 15 minutes, and I've just got a damp brush, and I'm going to try just using this soft damp brush to remove the paint and see how it looks. Now, obviously, it'd be nice if you guys could get a closer look at this. So I'll have a quick look at how it comes off. That's looking really interesting. Okay, I'm going to move that camera now so that you can get a closer look at what's going on. All right. Okay, you can see as I use just the soft brush, it's clearing away the base coat easily, and it's already starting to take away the primer, the black primer coat underneath down to the metal. Now it's not just scrubbing, it's not peeling it off, so it's not, you know, easy, but it's clear that this paint is really coming away. So this is just using a soft brush. If you look at the base, we can see that again all the sand and glue on the base is coming right off straight away. It's still leaving the primer coat. It's not affecting any of the putty that's used on the base. So you know it's left it black. So I'm gonna pop that one down and see how that looks for a minute. Oh, interesting. Interesting. You want to look at the brush? It seems to have stained the brush, although I'm washing it in water. Yeah, there's definitely a noticeable change in coloration on the brush itself, which is interesting. I can't tell whether that would squeeze out or not. I'm not sure. Okay, well that's worth knowing. I mean, I used a spare brush for exactly that reason. Now, I've got the resin miniature down there, but we'll put that one to one side because that's going to be of interest to a lot of people, I know. Let's have a look at the plastic miniature first. So here is our plastic Defiance Games Trooper. Again, let's see what we've got. Well, there's certainly no impression that there's been any damage to the plastic. The base colour again is coming right off. We're going down to the primer coat. I'm seeing some gaps in the primer as I move it around. I'm seeing the primer sort of come away here and there, but not like it's coming off in sheets. It's clearly affecting the primer, but there's absolutely no sign that it has affected the plastic in any way whatsoever. This is clearly a plastic friendly solution. Again, the base, the PVA on the base is peeling right off, the sand is coming away just fine, no problems at all. So I'm going to wash that in there. You'll notice, of course, that I'm washing sand and glue off my brush into that water pot over there. It should go without saying, I hope, that I will be changing that water before I actually do any painting on any miniatures. So with a clean brush, let's see if I can get any of that. Yep, you can see the primer is coming off with a clean brush now as well. So it's not all coming off with a single coat. We're not with a soft brush. We're not right down to the original grey plastic. Just with, it is fairly slippery stuff, has to be said. Just with the benefit of a soft brush, but it is having an impact. It is clearly having a demonstrable effect. So I will leave that to one side a little bit longer, and we'll pick up another metal miniature and see what difference it makes if I use something a little bit harsher than a soft brush. Let's pop that aside, find a metal miniature. What am I going to use that's harsher? A toothbrush. This isn't any particular brand of toothbrush, it's just a second-hand old one that my children gave up using. So let me get this miniature. It's another Metal Infinity miniature, so we've not started on this one at all, so I'm just going to give it a circular brushing, see how it affects. Oh yeah, that's having a very noticeable impact. You can see there, that's getting right down to the metal straight away. So we've got base coat, primer coat, all coming off in a single go. Interesting, this base has been slightly sculpted with milliput. It doesn't seem to have any effect on the milliput putty. That's just paint is coming off, but the putty itself is unaffected. I wouldn't expect the putty to be affected. Milliput is a clay-based putty that tends to be very resistant to this kind of chemical. It's one of the great things about it. It's very chemically inert once it's set. But again, you can say you can. It's not, it's not pure. It'll need washing, but you can definitely see that we've got the metal. We're coming right down to the metal with that cleaning there. So it'll need running under a tap, I should think, to get all of that spare off, or dunking in some water somehow. We'll give that a bit of a more thorough brushing in a minute. Now, the reason I was keen to use the soft brush is because we've got this guy, the resin, and I am very keen to not use a hard brush on a fragile resin miniature. So I'm going to pop that brush in there, go back to my soft brush, and see how this does on its own on the resin miniature. Now, all the colours coming off, that's no problem at all. So all the base coat is away. This one actually comes with the base attached to it, this miniature. So I've not done anything to the base. There's nothing to change or affect. Yeah, the base coat is coming off really easily. The primer coat is coming away. You can just see it at the base of his cloak. If you look at that, you can see the grey resin underneath is there to be seen, but it's not pulling the paint away in sheets or anything like that we can really see the base. Again, this is going to need gentle treatment, I think, under a running tap, just to really get the paint off. But it's clearly having an effect. It's clearly peeled the paint away quite effectively. But we need to use our soft brush to get into all those deep recesses to make sure that we're going to get this paint off effectively without damaging this miniature. Damaging it any further, I should say. It is already missing the end of one servo arm, sadly. But it's one of the reasons that this is a disposable miniature. It's a miniature with history, this one, actually. I want to get it painted properly, and I'll fix that servo arm in due course. And I look forward to showing you this Adeptus Mechanicus character one day. He's a Titan engineer, so, important person. Right, oh, and the pre-paint. So let's go back and have a look. We can go back to our stiff toothbrush for this one. So we'll just get that brush washed off. Go back to the pre-paint. So that AT43 guy, I've rebased him, so pay no attention to the base, but the paint is basically all as he came out of the box. I've done a little bit of repainting on him, but nothing of any significance. So this is how he comes out of the box. I want to see whether we just take off the paint that I put on him, or whether we get down to the original plastic and take off the pre-paint colour. Because I think that would be really interesting to people if you could get pre-paint off and get down to the bare plastic on these guys. Hard to tell at this point, I have to say, because there's no primer coat on this guy. You're going to have to be looking at the gun, I think, is the best indicator, and my instinct says no, says that this guy, we're not getting the pre-paint coat off this guy. That is absolutely chemically resistant to our efforts here. It does make me wonder what would happen if I use something harsher, like nitrum ores or Blackfriars, on one of these pre-paint plastics. Would it just eat up the plastic, eat through the paint and go straight into the plastic and it would kill it? Or would it actually eat through the paint and leave the plastic unaffected? But no, we can see this guy definitely, yeah, so the pre-paint coat looks completely unaffected by the Biostrip, which is very interesting. I wonder if we could leave it longer. I might put that one aside and repaint it and see if a longer treatment with the Biostrip makes a difference. I mean, I'd be quite surprised if it did, but it's worth a try, isn't it? So anyway, I'm going to go and take the ones which I've done. I'm going to run them under a tap, give them a proper cleaning in some water, and come back and show you how they look. All right. Okay, so having had a chance to clean up and have a look at some of these guys, let's have a look at how they've come out after they've gone under the tap. So first of all, let's have a look at this one. Is a Khawarij metal miniature from Corvus Belli. Mostly the paint has come off really nicely. Like many stripping agents, there are bits left in recesses, so you might want to go in there. Okay, so let's have a look now at the ones that have come out of the first round of cleaning. And I think the one that will be of most interest to most people is the plastic miniature. And if we show him up there, now you can see he is obviously no longer painted. He is very grey, but he has definitely not gone back to the colour of his original plastic. If I bring this light in a little bit better for you to see. He's definitely still showing the signs of being painted, but a lot of the detail has returned, and you can even see where I've not really properly cleaned up some of his mould lines. So generally speaking, that's pretty good, but I am going to try a second round on this guy just to see if he comes up any cleaner. So that's the metal chap. Sorry, the plastic chap. Metal, we've got this Infinity miniature, and by and large this one has come out really nicely. Most of the paint has come off really thoroughly, so this guy only had about 30 minutes, no less than that, only had about 15 minutes application of the Biostrip before I worked the paint off, with a soft brush to start with and then with a toothbrush after that to get the paint off itself. Basically dunked him in a bucket of water and gave him a good scrubbing, and this is how he has come out. The pre-paint miniature, as you can see, has been restored to his pre-paint standard, but otherwise there's almost no shift on the original paint scheme. Now I say almost, there are some signs that maybe with another application we might see some of the production paint come off, and we can see, if you look in here, don't know if you can see that on the on these pouches on the side, the brown paint on the pouches has started to peel off. So I'm going to try another application and see what difference that makes there. Last, most disappointingly, the resin miniature has definitely still got a lot of paint on it. Now this is partly due to the nature of the miniature, means that I can't really give it a very thorough scrubbing, and this Biostrip stuff isn't good enough that just a soft brush alone is going to get it off. So I'm going to find a slightly different brush, a sort of a stiffer brush than the soft brush, but still softer than a toothbrush, and give this one another application and see how it comes out. So those were examples from the first batch that we did. I also had a second batch that I intended to leave for about 30 minutes, but I ended up leaving them for over an hour. So if we have a look at them, some of them have come out very well. So we've got one of the original Hakislam Gulam miniatures here. Ignore the bent barrel, that was bent before I started stripping the paint off. So she's come out quite nicely. One of the newer Gulam miniatures, again, much like the Khawarij, most of the paint has come off. There's a little bit left in the deeper recesses. They might benefit from a second application. And this guy has come out really well. This is a Farzan assassin miniature, and again the paint has come off this one really particularly well. He's nearly completely clean, but interestingly he did come off his base. Now one thing I have noticed is that super glue, where it's been used to attach parts to a miniature, doesn't seem to be affected by this stuff. So if you've glued joints together with super glue, I think they will stay joined, which is a change from using nitromors. Use nitromors and generally speaking any of your joints will fall apart, whereas if we look at this HMG guy, he's pretty solidly stuck together. There's no chance of him him falling apart more than normal. So this doesn't affect your joints. Now you can still break joints, of course, and clean them up with a knife or something, but it's just worth being aware that this Biostrip doesn't affect joints the same way that other stripping agents do. The bases were a bit of a mix, and it seems to depend on how well I applied the Biostrip. Some paints come all off completely no trouble. There are a few where there's still paint attached to the edges here that requires another application, but it hasn't damaged the bases at all. The bases are completely intact, no warping, no degradation of the quality of the plastic in the bases, so they're absolutely fine. Okay, so having looked at all of these miniatures and taken a view on what this stuff is like, the short answer is this is good stuff. The plastic miniature, this Defiance Games guy, he has really come up a treat. I genuinely didn't think that a second pass would have any difference at all. I thought the paint would have just embedded itself in the plastic, but no, this guy has come up absolutely, not quite as new. None of these miniatures are as new, but this is the best cleaned up I have ever seen a plastic miniature with any product. The metal miniatures, they've come out. I gave everybody a second pass just for good measure. The Khawarij is looking fine. Most interesting, I think important, is this is the second pass on the Tech Priest, the resin miniature. As you can see, we've lost a lot more of the paint. There's still work to be done, but resin miniatures are particularly difficult to clean up, and I think this is what really speaks to the quality of what Biostrip is offering, is that 2 passes and just a soft brush. I didn't use anything but the same wide bristle soft brush I used to apply the stuff, and a rub under paint, but just the brush under water, but just the brush on him, has got off 98, maybe 99.5% of the paint. One more pass would make it ready to paint, to repaint again, in my opinion, but that's impressive on a resin miniature, particularly one that's so fragile with these servo arms, so easy to break. I really just wanted to stick to the soft brush, and to see the paint come off so easily the second time around was really encouraging. One thing I did want to pick up, as I said earlier, that it wasn't having an effect on superglued joints. That was wrong, because what I forgot was that a lot of these were not glued with superglue. They were glued differently, and in fact I will come back another time and talk about my gluing technique. But I had to cut away for a minute there because my son called me in the middle of filming this video. But I did want to talk about glue, so I'm going to come back another time and do a video on a gluing approach that I wanted to share with you guys. But in the interim, what's important is that actually this stuff does damage superglued joints, because there were a few joints that I did have. So we've got a good example on this miniature here. Her arm came off. That was a superglued joint. It's fine, still got the arm, lovely, not lost it, but be aware. Whereas by comparison, this guy, not a superglue joint, and his arms are still very securely attached along with his head, again not a superglue joint. So overall, Biostrip 20, there it is. It's available. Easiest place to get it is on eBay. They do have a website, but you won't get it any cheaper. And this stuff was, I think it was about £12. You'll find it for a variety of prices, you know what eBay's like. It was about £12 for, this is a 500ml pot. You can get it in smaller and larger quantities, but based on the miniatures that I've done today, so I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just 7, 7, oh no, there's 2 over there, 8, 9 infantry miniatures, 9 infantry miniatures, and I barely sort of, yeah, I mean it's nothing. So you could comfortably get a whole army cleaned and stripped out of one of these 500ml pots. So this is the product I'm going to be using from now on to do all my paint stripping. It's ecologically friendly, it's very good value, and it's really easy to use. So just apply it, glob it on with a soft brush, let it stand for just a few minutes. I mean, really it starts working straight away, but let it stand for a couple of minutes, and then take the stuff off again with either soft brush, or for those miniatures that can take it with a toothbrush, run it under some water, or put it in a bucket, clean the stuff off, and it'll come up a treat. Alright, any questions about this product, stick them in the comments under the video, and I'll see you guys with another video soon.